feedback's been amazing. So thank you to everybody, who has reached out and given me, feedback, good, bad, otherwise, critical, but it's pretty much been overwhelmingly positive. And, I was trying to do my best to be a good ambassador for the industry, help correct some, misunderstandings and misconceptions, set the record straight, as far as domain names being a valid asset class, in my opinion, one of the most attractive asset classes on the planet. And, it seems like I
yeah, I think you struck a
did
nerve.
a decent job of getting that across. So
in a really good way.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
So Chris,
I think actually the best thing, last point I'm going to make is I've had so much outreach from people that aren't within the industry reaching out and saying, wow, I never thought about domain names that way. Or, oh, wow, I kept ignoring the fact that I didn't have my .com, and now you made me realize, like, I'm sleeping, and in the back of my mind, I actually knew I needed it, but I was trying to pretend like I didn't, but there's all these people coming to me with like all kinds of, cope about why they didn't buy it before or why they've been delaying it or da-da-da. And it seems like, this triggered a lot of people to say, okay, the time is now. I need to step up. I need to get this done. Oh my God. Some people even, reaching out in a panic, like, wow, I need to get my .com domain name now.
I don't know. I think most of us will pick similar names out of this list anyway. So number one, like the big standout for me is jab.com for sure. And had a little bit of a look into that. Like there's a Jab holding company. They're an investment firm. They acquired Krispy Kreme for like 1.3 billion in 2016.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lovely, nice, so there's potential there, but I mean, also tread carefully, I would say.
Yeah. What do you think? Well, what do you think about the name jab.com? I mean, is jab now like a negative connotation around the vaccine and all that kind of nonsense? Or is it like...
I think it has multiple negative connotations, but it also has multiple, you could also easily have a positive connotation, right? Like it's like, jab and move.
Ooh,
so
okay, stick and move. I like it. Flow like a butterfly, sting like
right.
an arm,
so I think it's like it's jab means you're fast, right? You're like
okay. Yeah.
I love jab. I think jab is I love jab. Like
and I would have no
I love it for the negative and the positive connotations.
Right.
I want it all around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I love that.
No concern in my mind, at least, with any kind of TM or anything like that. It's just it's a 3-letter English word. It's just fucking fantastic.
This is still I like that price for that name a lot, especially considering how popular all the sauna and the infrared stuff. Plus, it's such a cool brand.
I'll take that for 40.
No, bro. You gotta start taking the other stuff from me first, and then we'll talk about the good.
You trying to break me off that baking soda. You know what I'm saying? Give me the good shit. Give me that puro.
Yeah, that's what part of Josh was like. He's like, man, I don't know if I can do the show. It's late. He's like, but I have been trying to get Drew to buy some names. So if this is how I can get in front of him to do it, then let's go. So
let's go. Come on. Infrared. How much? Let's go.
No, that was in the vault. That was in the vault, bro.
Nah, get out of here with your vault. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fantastic.
When you start locking things in the vault, you know what happens?
You go broke.
Cash flow goes to zero. That's it.
Yeah, that's
it.
You gotta sell.
Don't fall in love.
You gotta sell some of the shit.
Domain names are for buying and selling.
That's
okay,
right.
You don't marry them.
True. That's so.
You ask Drew.
Buying and selling.
Ask Drew how he feels about like DX.com. You know what I mean? And
dude, love that for me.
Listen, I'll sell that thing to the first guy with real money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. It could be the prettiest girl at the ball. She's still for sale.
Violent Buddhist.
But as I got deeper involved in those projects, as I came to understand the limitations of Web3 domain names, as I came to understand that there really, I don't want to say there isn't a limitation, but I would argue that the amount of utility that we actually, it's kind of like, they say we only utilize 10 or 20% of our brain, right?
And for a lot of people, it's much less than that.
DNS is a very
underutilized system,
underutilized protocol. Okay, there are a lot of things that can be done with DNS, with mapping digital real world assets to the digital realm and vice versa, managing real world assets, utilizing domain names through things like Internet of Things. There is a lot of upside to the utility value of DNS. Okay. And I think this is just one more sort of notch, okay, in that utility belt. And what's important to remember is when we talk about increasing the utility of a DNS domain name, when you look at any asset, the more utility it has, when you add commercial ability, when you add commercial potential, when you add commercial utility, you are adding value. That's literally the definition of value add. And so what does this do? Well, if it immediately increases the value of premium, desirable, commercial.com domain names. Okay. Bitcoin is the apex predator when it comes to digital, decentralized money. And ultimately, if you're playing in the realm of crypto, what you want is digital, immutable, decentralized money. And so if that is what you seek, Bitcoin is your only option.
You found it.
If you are seeking irrational gains, irrational exuberance, if you want to play in the crypto casino, then there's plenty of shitcoinery for you. Okay. And the same applies to domain names. If you are long-term, you get it. You've been listening to DomainSherpa, you've been playing in the domain world, whatever it might be. You have made a decision that, yes, domain names are digital real estate. I believe in the long-term viability of the internet, and I want to own a piece of it. I want to plant my flag. I want to own some of this digital land. Well, then the conclusion that you should arrive at is that my best probability for long-term success is to buy .com domain names that have commercial ability, commercial value, commercial interest, and I should buy them with a long-term time horizon. I should understand what that potential buyer for this domain name might look like. I should understand what I think the price I can sell it for is, and it should be a materially higher than what you paid for the domain. Okay. Everything else is speculation. Everything else is irrational exuberance, speculation. You might as well go to the casino, put your money on black or red or whatever other shit game you want to play. But that isn't investing. But even they don't get this absolutely fundamental principle. This is rule number one. I don't care if you want to be a domain investor or a stock investor or a gold investor or a Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. Everything in the universe is relative. Okay. There is nothing in a vacuum. And so when you're making a choice to buy traintrack.com or anything else for that matter, an ounce of gold, a car, a house, a stock, doesn't matter. It is relative to every other opportunity for which you could allocate that same amount of capital. Okay. And so then you need to evaluate it based on your priorities. What are your priorities? Are you looking for? Do you have a time preference? Are you looking to maximize your upside? Are you looking to minimize your downside? Are you looking to, just accumulate? Are you looking for the best opportunity that's available at a particular time? Are you looking for the best ROI? What are you optimizing for? And based on that framework, you need to evaluate every investment you make, every domain you purchase, not from, is this worth it? But is this the best use of my capital at this moment in time? Should I deploy capital at all?
Guess who's back again. Guess who's back. Tell a friend, it's the man, the one and only Shane Culture, aka Sugar Shane, aka Honey Shane, aka Mike Rowe, aka Blame It on the Shane, aka House of Shane, aka the Blue Oyster Culture, aka the Culture Personality, aka Doing It for the Culture. In Shane in the Membrane, in Shane in the Blockchain. Come back, Shane. and he is back in effect on the show. What's up, dude? How you living? You shaved your head and everything. You got your swag on.
Yeah, well, Drew said I couldn't come back on until Bitcoin hit 55,000 and I shaved my head. So
checking all the boxes, man. Yeah. So what's up, man?
And then Bitcoin hit. Now here we are.
Here we are. Yo, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It is a beautiful day.
There's an interesting new element that I think you guys are doing very well that didn't exist back when I was a very active seller on the platform. And that is the buy it now listings that you guys are now circulating to people who have previously back ordered or participated in an auction. And that name has now been priced in somebody's account in somewhere in your network. And now you guys are sending this daily newsletter saying, hey, this domain that you've previously participated in an auction is now available with a bin price. Now, again, most of these are getting priced out of the market, but still, it's adding a really, I think, high value touch point to potential buyers. I actually meant to shout you guys out on that because I think that's there's a few names I bought just because I got that newsletter and I was like, oh, somebody, I was in the auction, I missed the end line, but somebody bought it and they're marking it up 30% or something. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna still buy that name.
I think that's an underutilized function of the platform, right? Is every back order that you have, we're monitoring, right? Think of it that way. We have to believe on our end that every back order that you have in your account means that you want that name. Now, price is always dependent upon you, the buyer, but notifying. Another underutilized product or feature that we have in Snap Names and Namejet is our save search. You can put specific keywords into your save search and you will get the same notifications when domains that come into that. Remember, on the drop, there's hundreds of thousands of names a day that are dropping. So to cull through that kind of goes directly back to the point, JT, that you and I have always talked about for years is how do we make the inventory visible to users in an easy manner, right? We don't want people to comb through 450,000 names. That's hard to do unless you have tools and automated processes. So utilizing those search tools in safe searches is a way to get inventory in front of you.
So next up, it could be Drew or Mark, either one of you, whoever wants to go next.
Mark sounds like he has a hard one.
All right.
Yeah, let's go.
I sold Portage, PORTAG .ID.
Wait, hold on. C-O what?
No,
Portage.
Portage.
Like carry.
Like carry a canoe.
Portage dot
ID.
Oh,
you had me till ID.
Wow.
Portage dot ID.
This is a good one, man. I like this a lot. There's a lot to talk about on this.
I was today's year old when I found out about that ID.
And I think this is more in line with Drew's vision and the idea of like, hey, like, come invest with me, right? I mean, that's like kind of the whole thing, and providing more, involvement and responsibility. And I think that's important. And, putting it in the hands of the experts, which I think is great. And then obviously bringing this kind of name to the platform, which is, like I said, it's the most valuable name that we've done to date. And, it's just exciting, man. It's super, super cool.
Well,
so,
keeping this simple, right? You are you're an investor in other asset classes, alternative assets, collectibles, whatever it might be. You're a smaller domain investor. You've never bought a domain bigger than $500 or $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever it might be. And you look at your track record, you look at your sell-through rate, you look at the the value. What are you making 10x when you sell these? Are you making 20x? If you're not, you're probably not even paying your renewals, right? And so, how many of those did you sell? Right? Did you sell 1 out of 1,000? Well, that's going to be a tough portfolio to carry and generate a return on. So, the idea is that, okay, take a pause, step back. Do you believe in MJ.com? Do you, I don't know any domain investor who wouldn't love to own a two-letter.com. There are very few domain investors who have ever had the ability to own one. And so, suddenly, for the first time ever, anybody has the ability to now own a piece of one of the one of these 676 possible two-letter.coms, but arguably one of the best ones that exists.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think we've definitely seen having to be more creative, just getting deals done and stuff in general. I think also when you look at the way that we went from post-COVID, when there was so much cash just flooding the market and, everybody's buying everything and it was just, kind of raining money, then it became a lot tighter, right? And then you have like Y Combinator and A16Z basically telling their portcos and hey, look, save your cash, do not spend it, right? So then they've got to come up with ways to be able to still build and grow their business, but do it in a way that, fits their cash flow model. And, leasing, payment plans, options, equity, all that kind of stuff really then becomes, a much more appealing thing because it really, we can put you in this domain today, you can drive it off the lot and all you got to do is put this much down and this much a month. And,
what I've discovered is there's a lot of these startups that don't want to take on the debt. So they will lease over financing so they don't have debt on their books.
The space on the blockchain is what's so valuable because it's what's secured with all that energy in the world and stuff. And so the killer app for Bitcoin, the first killer app for Bitcoin was money. Like having that, because that's so important. Having that on the block space is the first killer app. But this Ordinals thing, and I think naming could be the second killer app. Like that. So basically that namespace is so valuable. It's so, it's a trust, it's trustless, like, and it's so secure, decentralized, that ledger that, killer app, other killer apps can be built for it too. And I think naming is a great thing to be anchored in that block space.
Do you think that you're maybe putting some of the value of that domain at risk?
Okay. So 2 weeks ago, spring break, my 13-year-old and I were at home because my wife and 16-year-old were going to look at colleges. I wanted to do something fun, but we had the dog at home who got attacked last time we boarded her, so we wanted to stay at home. We decided to each build a game. I decided to build a solitaire game. He built a 2-dimensional arcade type game. And I was amazed that with the help of AI, I was able to build a functioning solitaire game called Pyramid Solitaire. And because I've owned Pyramid for a number of years, thank you, Booth Brothers, for selling it to me. I've got some inquiries on it, but I'm like, I am tired of us, the domain industry, being understanding the value of the ultimate premium domain names and never using them for our own selves. We're always using longer domain names, branded domain names, whatever. I wanted to take the most premium asset, one of the most premium assets that I have, and have fun with it, like build something on it. Worst case scenario, this thing goes up, it doesn't function, I pull it down, it goes back into my portfolio. I'm not building up a ton of links to it. It's not a porn site. It's not an adult, gambling site. It's whatever. There's no detriment being, layered on top of this domain name. Most of the links that are coming in to the 29th oldest .com in existence, pyramid.com, are from the previous owner.
Is that number 29?
29.
Speaking of domain upgrades, I saw that Pepe.com is, they made a move. They made a move from.
Yeah.
So
this just highlights, my point, right? Like, did they upgrade from Pepe.vip to Pepe.ai? No. Did they upgrade from Pepe.vip to Pepe.xyz? No. Did they upgrade to .io? No. .co? Nope. .org? Nope. They upgraded to .com, right? And so that was well over a year and a half of going back and forth with them. Obviously, the bull market helps. We finally got them over the line. It was a beautiful deal for everybody. It was a huge upgrade for them. Gives them, look, it's a frog on the internet. I don't know how much validity, I'm saying, people are giving to it. But nonetheless, if we're talking about meme coins, it gives it a little bit of seriousness or validity,
what I think is really interesting about the Pepe deal, because you say, you touch on it a bit, which is, what validity does a meme coin dealing with fraud, you know, an irreverent frog on the internet really need to have their exactmatch.com. But there are several Pepe coins out there. There's confusion a little bit around which is the right, which is the original provincial coin, which is the, you know, and which are these other ones. So
it's so simple. If you own the .com, all the questions are answered. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody's going and looking for the next one if you got the .com. Like it really is that simple.
I have that same system, the USM. It's the best.
USM is the best. I mean, it's just like it's timeless. It's timeless design, ultra high quality. You know what I mean? Like my kids will have that someday. Like
it's beautiful. Yeah.
It's the best. It's literally timeless. Like the design is timeless. The quality is timeless. You know, my wife's father, the first time I ever saw it was up, you know, my wife's dad's house, and his entire office, the whole living room is all USM. And half of it came from his father. Like, wow. And it looks brand new. It looks, you know,
that's cool.
Like, yeah. It's really, it's the best.
All right. Well,
I love it.
You know, not, we're not going to say not financial advice, not furniture advice. NFA, not furniture.
Not decorated.
Actually, that is definitely furniture advice.
What's up? Do they have USM.com?
They do. Companies that have a real business, companies that have like a real timeless business, they know that there's no like ticking clock on their business. They get the best version domain name they can for their business. And then businesses that know that they're eventually going to rug pull their customers or their vendors, or that, you know that there's a short-term window for this business opportunity or whatever. They don't, because it's just, they look at it as less money that'll go in their pocket. It's just long-term versus short-term thinking. And USM, long-term thinking. These guys are just,
love it, man.
Crushing.
Yeah, that's the lesson. I love it. And as we say on the show, all roads lead to domains. So
that's how I was just trying to tie it back, and it couldn't be more appropriate.
Love everything about it. All good.
It's not just furniture advice.
No, these are in my wheelhouse. Like, you're overlooking speed bike. The tri bike market is huge. Like speed bikes and tri bikes, they sell for $8,000 or $10,000 a piece, and people have 2 and 3 of them. I mean,
okay.
Wow.
Speed bike is a name that they'd love to own. Matter of fact, Trek has a huge bike called Speed Concept. That's their biggest seller. That starts at $7,000. You can spend $25,000 no problem on the bike. So I think Speed Bike's a solid name for a bike company. Urban Growers, biggest move, everything is container gardening. Like, container gardening, urban. Drew, you've got urban something, urban grower.
I've got urbangarden.com, urbangardening.com.
Yeah. So that's it's a big market. Urban Growers would be a really easy site to set up for container gardening and city gardening and stacking. You know, the new is stacking hydroponic lettuce and plants like that. So that's a solid name. I'm buying Grow Lab, so I don't care what it goes for. It's perfect. The cannabis market pales in comparison to the corn and bean market, and seed. That's a huge market. Grow Lab for that would be great. Get protection, security, hiring security. I think that's not a huge market, but it is a market, and it's got 48 back orders, so you can see that others kind of like the name as well. But I think Get Protection works because it's a call to action, right? It's a call, you know exactly what you're going to do when you go to the website. So I think that's a great name.
Look, man, you just came in and just absolutely cleaned house in this segment.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
You guys are bloating up .club, talking trash about it, and then going with $5,000. Come on, man. Just because .ai is selling for that kind of stuff doesn't mean .club is not back. It's not back.
Yeah, I don't think you can get a .ai for 4 figures anymore.
No, it's crazy.
It's wild. They do that.
Well, I thought,
it's crazy too, because all the smart people in AI are basically affirming what I've been saying, which is that, like, I guarantee you 30% of all the companies that were like launching projects or startups over the course of the last 6 to 12 months, they literally just went out of business last night with the launch of this new GTP 4.0, right? Like, it's going to be consolidated and consolidated and consolidated, and people are going to keep emerging, but they're not going to be able to hit scale enough to raise enough funding to come buy your domain for $1 million. So I don't know what these people are smoking with the .ai, because it's nothing to do with the extension, but it's like when they start pricing them at the .com level, it's like, I don't know who your buyer is. I don't know.
Well, and that's
pricing it for the wrong stage. The end users, 98% of the end users are all going to be either like pre-funding or seed funding or maybe an A. And the A is going to be an exception. It's probably the 20% out of the 100. And so you have a very small pool of potential buyers that can afford to pay a price above a low to mid 5-figure price.
What else on the list do you like or don't like? Since
Oh, for me, that SecureDeck was my number one pick. I also liked Fashion Bug as a nice little kind of brandable domain. It's weird. I don't normally get attracted to kind of generic names, but microbrewing.com, I thought it had some potential. There's so many microbrewing companies out there that if there was one that was somewhat enlightened and understood the power of a generic, maybe not to build a brand around, but just for traffic generation or for just kind of, or if they were B2B, microbrewing.com would be great for a B2B brand, maybe selling microbrewing equipment, which is like hundreds of thousands of dollars for each piece of equipment. So I quite like that one. Those are the three. Cool Cuts, I like the alliteration, coolcuts.com, but I'm not quite sure, is that for a cut of music? Is it for haircuts? That was my least favorite of the ones that stood out for me.
All right, I dig it. All right, Drew, it's on you. What do you like or don't like?
Hey, can I piggyback on Bill's comment there? Like, I think that Cool Cuts, like what Bill was saying, is like, what is it? Is it music? Is it haircut? It's whatever. I think that actually broadens the buyer pool. So I think that actually is a benefit that you can't really. You can't categorize it or pigeonhole it into one specific thing. So that to me is a buy because of that. So that's a lift.
You're introducing friction, right? And as we know, friction, every single step of friction that gets introduced into a transaction or into a communication dilutes it and decreases your ultimate conversion rate. So what were the triggers that caused you to sort of arrive at the decision?
Yeah, I acquired the business at a $50 million valuation. I raised $20 million from investors. I took some debt from the sellers to the tune of $9.3 million of debt, personal debt. And it's just a no-brainer to me to not lose the forest for the trees here. We have a lot of competitors flowing into the international recruiting market. We have competitors with .xyz domain names. We have competitors with words that don't make sense. We have misspellings. We have all these other competitors that are spending serious marketing money. So one of them just raised at a $50+ million valuation, or I think they actually raised $50 million in a round to try to compete with us and come after us. And one way to, fend off competition is to build an amazing brand that's memorable. 100%. And obviously there's the operations piece, which I'm working on as well with my team of, how do we become the best recruiters in the country at what we do? Extreme speed, extreme professionalism, just very good at what we do. But then there's just the piece that you can't ignore, which is the value of a good brand. So, when you're raising $20 million, borrowing another $9 million, and you're buying controlling interest in a $50 million company, it's a no-brainer to put that $50 million company inside of a building that is attractive and easy to remember. It's the best money I've ever spent, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more.
February of last year, being like, Marshall, look, we have to change the name. Here's another customer who's misspelled our domain. And I just sat and watched somebody misspell. My business partner, who's an Ivy League grad, I sat and watched him typing on a computer, and he could not type the correct word into the domain. I'm like, this is killing us. It's killing us.
Yeah.
And we started looking at $10,000 domains. 2 words did not make sense together, just random words that we thought we could put together and were easier to spell. I started urging him to invest more. And I started looking at some pretty hefty domains. I just pulled up an email from a broker last October. I was looking at track.com asking $1.1 million. I was looking at jake.com asking $600,000. A one word that's easy to memorize. We can build a brand around anything. We soon found there was some pushback. Marshall was starting to come around to the fact that, hey, this is a big boy business now, doing millions of dollars a month of revenue, 150 plus employees. He started to come around, started to say, okay, yeah, this is something we need to do. We finally found somewhere.com. They were asking about 500 grand. We made them an offer for $400,000 in November, where we pay $25,000 a month for 16 months. And we pulled the trigger and acquired it in November of last year. So it was kind of a team effort of, hey, this is what we need to do for this company.
So let's talk about the list and some of what you're excited about. So yeah, Monty, why don't you give us a quick rundown on what is it about this auction that you are super excited about, particularly considering that you've done so many of these?
So one thing I did this year or what we did this year, is to make sure that the list was diversified in terms of extensions and keyword domain names. As you know, we're crossing into Web3 and blockchain assets, along with AI and other other extensions that really weren't popular a year ago. And so we have a good number of keyword domain names in the .ai extension, or with AI.extension to the left and the right of the dot. So that's pretty cool to get into that trending. We have several blockchain assets from Unstoppable and from Freename, along with some privately owned web assets for that. I don't like to call them domains because they're really digital assets and digital identities, but really cool wallet addresses, digital identities from those providers. And then we have a collection of a ton of names that have never been for sale before, like never been put up on the market. So I did a lot of work hitting up corporations, companies, holders of assets that never put their names up for sale, and got some really good names in the auction this time that have never been for sale. Unlike seeing names repeatedly over and over again, where it kind of gets old news. You'll see a lot of new here. For example, DMV.com was just entered 2 days ago. That obviously is a huge traffic name. It already has tons of traffic and makes money.
It's going to be a big line for that one, right?
A big line.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Now it's about Buccees. Y'all ever been to a Buccees? Oh, dude, they're like it's like a gas station, but mixed with like a Walmart. So it's huge. It's like the size of like a Target, you know what I'm saying? But it's like a gas station. And
I love Buccees.
Buccees is the jam. They got handcrafted different. They have like their own. They have a beef jerky counter. You know what I'm saying? So imagine, this place is enormous. It's straight up like a Walmart, And they have a counter dedicated to just beef jerky of like 20 different types that they take out with the tongs and they put in the thing. I mean, it's like, and so
you're supposed
America.
to do all that while you're getting gas.
Yeah. I mean, most people I think go there like to shop and maybe even like, but they're typically off the side of the highway, like a where you like a rest, not even a rest area, but like the gas stations, when you're traveling down the interstate. It's you go in and you can buy anything from like, I mean, there's clothes and boots, and you can buy artwork that's got like American Eagles on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is straight up America, dude. I'm telling you. Like, when you're like America, they should change the name to America. It is that. And it was pretty badass. I gotta say, they got the pulled pork sandwiches are very good. Beef jerky's really good. You can get you can pretty much get anything you want. You might even be able to buy a new car there.
We're going to Buccees. Let's go.
We're going to Buccees, man. All right. To my lower right, we got my boy Andrew Rosner, aka Morpheus, aka the Dirk Diggler of digital assets, aka Bob Lee Swagger, the sniper, aka Drew. Drew got what I need, aka never gonna give Drew up, aka Graybeard, the domain pirate, who does not have a meat cleaver hanging in the back, which he almost took from one of the restaurants in Austin. So it was close.
Almost purchased from one of the restaurants. I didn't take it.
You turned it into
I tried.
An auction.
Yeah, I tried to negotiate.
What's the starting bid? The lady's literally like, sir, I don't even know how to answer that question. No one's ever asked that before. No one's ever tried to buy the meat cleaver off of the wall before, sir. I don't even know who to ask.
It was a really cool antique meat cleaver with a very cool handle that looked like it was medieval. And, I thought it was a reasonable request after like tequilas and 3 bottles of wine.
Yeah. Hey, no. And at the time it was. She just was very uncomfortable. She's just like, yo, I don't know. I don't even know who to ask. And then, Triple G be like, well, you'd know who to ask if the place caught on fire, wouldn't you?
Such a fucked up thing to say.
Is.
Yeah, 100%. That's actually what went down. True story. I think swim pool, look, it's clearly not the right version, but it's kind of like landscaping. Like there's just so many companies that do pools, whether it's pool cleaning or pool installation, pool construction. Like there's so many of those companies, and it's a relatively high value service product. And like, I just think that one of them is probably willing to buy swimpool.com. It's like close enough, and it's memorable enough, and it's
it's descriptive enough.
And it's descriptive enough that I think one of those companies is probably willing to pay 10, 15 grand for that name just to throw it, to have it on the side of their vans. You know what I mean? Like it's a pretty good mediocre brand, right? But it's a category like landscaping that has so many operators. They generally earn pretty good money. Like, you're not, those guys do well. They do well.
No, 100%. If you get that for $1,000, that's great. I like that name up to probably up to 2,500, maybe even a little more. I think it's a good brand.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's a good brand. I like it.
Yeah. I think that's I think it's actually a great name to have on the list, just because I think it highlights something. Like, you have to, I think the two most important things to think about when acquiring a name is who's the buyer, and then what is the timing like, right? Is this a market that's doing well? And is there a clear and apparent buyer or buyer type for this name?
All right, I got to sell. Mine is WELL said SAID.io.
All right, I'm sorry. You said well said. That's a great name. Wellsaid.com. And it was a buy or a sell.
No, .io.
Oh. That is good.
And it's a sell.
You sold wellsaid.io.
That's the Cleveland Brown of domain names.
Wellsaid.io.
All right, wellsaid.io.
It was a sale, though.
This is a sale?
Yeah.
All right. Ready? Let me know when you're ready to flip it.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Go ahead. Okay. So Braden's at 2,500. I'm at 3,500. Drew is at $7,895.
Ye hath little faith in the Lord of Las Vegas.
Really?
$20K.
No. What? The Lord of Las Vegas strikes again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's higher than I thought, but I knew it had to be a decent price, because I'm shocked Braden's out here bidding 2,500. You guys were like the leading bidders in all the .ios at the live auction.
I know, but it's a 2-word. I mean, I like wellsaid.com. I would have been up there, but
well said. I think you could argue it's a 1-word, but
no, stop.
Wait a minute. What?
I was with you.
What 1 word?
I was with you. You lost me when you told me that 1 + 1 was 2. 1 × 1 was 2. It was like, yo, this shit about like, the Goldilocks zone, how planets are made. I was like, yo, that shit makes sense. I'm with you. And then you were like, 1 × 1's 2. And I was like, no, I can't believe what you say now.
Regardless of whether it's it's 2 words. I got 20K, bitches.
I got to pull. So I'm pulling up a
who's
name.
Up?
Well, that's the thing. I got to throw a name out there because.
I'll talk about one.
No. You have a point, didn't you?
Yeah, but I don't care. I want to talk about
just grab one off a name bio.
Talked about on the show. It's a name that I talked about as a buy on the show once with Shane, and this is applicable to Shane's. He's going to be so upset I sold this name, so I'm going to say it.
Well, wait, but for the purposes of the game, you can talk about that one next. But I want to do one that.
No, it's not if it's not a game.
No, but this is for the domain game. I want to get a winner.
Mom and Dad fighting?
The 3 of
None of us were. Yeah, we were all clear about what it's for.
What do you mean?
I hate it when Mom and Dad fight.
All right, ready?
I'm
3, 2, 1, flip it. Ooh, okay.
Oh, Drew,
I've got 1,500, and Drew's got $1,795.
JT.
Oh, Drew or
Yeah.
what?
I love it. It's straight up. This is a one-on-one, me versus Drew. So now I gotta win this. All right. So talk to us. How much you pay for it?
$340.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Why? You got pokeraddict.com or is it bullshit?
.com.
And where'd you buy it?
That is a straight up grand theft. That was a steal. Like pokeraddict.com for $3 whatever is one of the best buys of the year.
Come on now. So
for real.
So the problem is that there's, you could do a plural, right? So, the plurals for sale actually. So if anybody wants to watch this and go and compete against me, I'm picking that up before the show's over. I think, it's one of those ones that's interesting though, because I think, the traffic is going to be, I don't know. I would imagine it would be people convincing people not to play anymore, right? Like rather than, but it's a weird play because you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
this is the DGen poker website. This is
I think this is your leaning into like I'm a poker addict. I love poker.
Yeah,
all I do is play poker.
So life insurance premium.
Well, and there are plenty of life insurance products that are like
it's like it offsets the premiums on your life insurance. It's like
So how much?
I like it.
I paid $5,600 for it.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, you went deep.
Deep. That's interesting.
So I mean,
what was your
I like
process there.
Well, I like that so I've sold fund.com names before that were more venture oriented for decent prices. The venture funds tend not to spend a lot of money on anything other than their investments. But I've sold a few fund oriented names for good prices in the 5 figures. So I like them for that. I like life oriented names as well.
I mean, look, Amar and I just bought Life. What do we buy? Life Plan. We just bought lifeplan.com in Monty's auction at NamesCon. We probably got a little exuberant.
Well, let me guess.
Tell me.
Yeah.
So you just gave away a little bit. Life Plan. 25.
Yeah, 25,000.
Dead even.
Did you know that that's what they paid?
No, I had no idea. I didn't watch the auction. Nothing.
Yeah, no, that's what we paid. 25,000.
That's awesome. Yeah. Look at that, man.
So, and look, I'm fully cognizant. I think we probably overpaid. That was the reserve. I really like the name. I think that Life Plan is a great life insurance type name. Life planning, estate planning, all that stuff, right? And I think Life Fund is right there. Two would go together beautifully.
You can go to DomainSherpa.com, go to the post for this particular episode. You can download the spreadsheet. We've got the Esteban appraisals. Take that with a grain of salt. How many back orders as of the day we record the show, when the order by date is. So when you kind of need to have your back orders in order to track the auction, although you can technically jump into an auction even after it's started now, along with a little bit of other data. Shout out to Esteban for providing that data. And some links and all that good stuff. We don't have any kind of an affiliate deal or anything, so it's really just there to help y'all, but it's still not financial advice. With that said, let's get into these and see what the Sherpas like and what they don't like. Adam, let's start with you.
Just curious, real quick. If we just thinking out loud here, these are not securities, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't really know what you would identify them as from financial regulatory perspective, some kind of asset. But let's just say we did make a formal recommendation to buy a domain that we have no interest in whatsoever. I don't know that there's a liability associated with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I just was saying.
I'm just curious. I was just thinking about that out loud.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the non-financial advice is more of a crypto thing. I just kind of threw it out there, like being somewhat, whatever, flippant about it. But yeah, I think if we're having that,
what's interesting though is if you're offering advice about Bitcoin, you don't actually even need that disclaimer because it's a commodity. Like I can sit here all day long and tell you, go buy gold. Gold's that shit. Go buy gold.
Go buy soybeans.
Yeah, go buy soybeans. Pig bellies. Pig bellies is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but if we were being like Blue Horseshoe loves Anacon Steel, well, then that, now we're suddenly into some other territory.
I was going to leave it alone, but I'm going to go there because so many people hyped up Austin to me. So many people were like, oh, yo, Austin is like, oh, it's the shit. Everybody moving from LA, San Francisco, moving to Austin. Like, Austin is the bomb. I was like, man, I can't believe I've never been to Austin. Like, I was kind of excited, other than the fact that it's super hard to get to. I was like, oh, I'm pretty excited to finally get to Austin. I mean, tell me what I got wrong, but I was 6 days in Austin. I tried to get around. I hit all the best restaurants. I got the top recommendations from people who are in the know in Austin, like real people. And I went to all the spots. Everything that was recommended to me, I hit it, every single one.
You get Golden Corral?
No Golden Corral. But my judgment on Austin is that it is an absolute shithole. I literally think Austin is a horrible city. I find basically zero redeeming factors. I think that you can eat well, no question about it. You can eat well, but you can eat well in every metropolitan city. You go into the neighborhood. I went to supposedly the best sushi restaurant in like America, according to Joerogan. And I got out the car. I'm like, JT, hold a taxi. I was like, yo, we're going to get mugged here. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it at all. I didn't find any redeeming qualities about Austin at all. But I literally couldn't grab on to a single redeeming feature that would allow me to hold out any love for Austin. I'll never go there again.
You called out Joerogan just now.
Yeah, Joe, straight up, like, yo, that sushi was good. No doubt about it. Shit was good. But dude, it wouldn't even be in my top 10 sushi I've ever had. Like, not even in my top 10. Y'all need to get out of America more. I wish I had taken out like, 100 million in term life. Like, before I turned 40. Like, term.
Why? Because once that's done, it's done, and you didn't die yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
and it's cheaper. The premiums, obviously,
if you're a healthy person under 40, you can get like literally. I bet you my premium on $100 million term life policy. I bet you my premium's like, I don't know, 10 grand a month.
Yeah, look, if you had that kind of policy on you, I'd be like, let's go to the roof at the Omni. Let's have a conversation, dog.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of conversations with your wife about things.
Hey, today's the day. Don't worry, we got you.
Drew, like we left no stone unturned, right? Like before, before in the months leading up, like I said, Sophia and I had a lot of calls with yourself and many others. We had a lot of feedback. We made some more senior appointments on the product side of things before we came. We also rejoined the ICA, which terrific to be a part of the ICA and connect.
Yeah, good on you guys. I mean that I think that goes a long way. I think that was overdue, and I think you guys are a really important member of the ICA. You represent a very important interest. You have a unique position in that interest, and all of the people that should be doing business with you are members, and all of the people that are members should be doing business with you.
When I got to NamesCon, but I can definitely tell you that the energy on the morning of you could even I mean, we arrived on the Sunday night, and you could sense the energy building, as it led into the Wednesday. But I remember the morning of day one, the energy was palpable, and you could really feel that the titans of the industry were in the room. Like, you go to some conferences and there's like thousands of people, and it's a big conference, but there in Texas, there was 300-400 people, but you could really get a sense on the morning of day one that the most important people in the industry were there. And then I know you guys got invited as well, but yeah, it was,
yes,
it was, but no, you
we did lock down the Cuba Cup. So Josh, you coming to ICA?
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna come to ICA for sure next time. Is it what, January?
Yeah, end of January, like the 27th, 28th, I think. I just locked down the indoor facility where I did it last year, so we'll be playing. So I guess now we know who's going to win the Cuba Cup this year, but that's okay.
You're gonna have to.
I may have to pull a Nancy Kerr or a Tanya Harding on Josh.
No, you know what you might need to do is do like they do at some of these tournaments where you break down, like you have a Division 1 and a Division 2. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna have to have like the most experienced players will compete at the high level, which will basically be you, Josh, and Steve Kennedy. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like everybody's going to be picking up their games between now and then. Camila said it's the number one most requested activity. So
is it really?
Yeah.
Josh,
people had a good time last year. Or this
it was a great time, except for the fact that my squad got screwed over. Bucks.
I'll organize better this year. That was the test run. So this coming one,
it's just a timing thing, and then the fact that we were just happened to be playing players that didn't have a whole lot of character. You know what I'm saying? So that they were willing to cheat to try to. And I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Paul. Alan, you know what I'm saying?
I don't want to call anybody out named Paul Nick.
Exactly. I'm not going to say, that anybody that we're playing was trying to nickel and dime us, and that tried to shiplet us on the amount of time to play to finally get to the.
In my frame for domain valuation is the same thing, right? So it's raw equity, the Rosen equation, which probably every one of these estimators use, right? There's only so many ways you can slice the data, right? So Drew pioneered that raw equity. The next pillar is brand equities. How many brands are out there that call themselves that, right? Because your domain name is your brand equity, right? It's a function of the life built in, that you breathe into that, and customers reward simplicity. So it's brand equity, and then it's perceived equity. So the perceived equity is like, what does the founder perceive that they can do with that based on the pain that they've had on a bad domain and losing out on a domain, right? And knowing what they're building, and then the different buyer types as far as like a viable or scalable startup that's raising money and needs to have a quick ramp up so that they can sell to the next guy, right? The hot potato.
And I love the comment that you made. I don't know that I've ever heard that before. And maybe I've seen it in one of your books, but customers reward simplicity. So that I think is an awesome line. And so talk a little bit about that. I mean, where's that from? And
probably one of Drew's negotiations. I don't know. He's probably one of the best negotiators out there, just because he believes in domain names. Yeah. And he goes through that, the simplicity, right? The logical aspect of it, that in essence, you're going to, that simplicity, they can find you, it equals trust, right? All these elements of brand equity.
And I think this kind of does flow around what we're talking about, which, is kind of you say it all the time. The trend is your friend, right? Until it is
the trend your friend. Yeah.
Right.
Is the trend your friend now? I mean, a lot of people in metaverse, it ain't your friend, baby,
Yeah. Well, it's because your friend left the building and they're no longer.
Yeah, your friend's dead.
Is the trend your friend? We'll come up with a show title around that, because I think that's exactly what we're talking about, both with some of the cyclicality, if that's the actual word, around and the different variables that impact the value of domains, and when is the right time to sell based on when are you actually going to get the best possible offer on your domain. And I know that is a challenge that we deal with all the time with sellers that we represent, because it's like we get offers for their domains, And some folks, it's, they get it and they're reasonable about it. Other folks, kind of holding on a little bit. Some of it's emotional. I think that's one of the interesting things that Drew does. So, we've got the Rosner equation, and Drew is one of the, the top, folks in the world, right? If not number one, as far as valuing a domain name. And has this whole formula, and he's very analytical about it, right? I mean, he tries to take the emotion out of that process because, at the end of the day, it's dollars and cents, and, there might be emotion involved in either holding or buying, but it's also trying to figure out when that timing is right on either of those sides. And like to your point, when you have these trends, these things that are happening, these movements, exuberance, we see it in crypto, we saw it in NFTs. There was a moment where, it definitely hit peak exuberance where the peak value was there to be realized. And if you didn't realize it at that point, you will never see an offer like that again.
The whole concept really is that you get rewarded for bidding, right? So at a basic level, the only two outcomes in a GBM auction are, as a bidder, you either make money or you win the asset. That's it. Mm-hmm. They're the only two outcomes. Whereas in every other traditional auction out there, pretty much, it's you either lose because you don't win anything, or you win the asset. Yeah. And what's different here is that price discovery itself, the idea of price discovery, finding value, particularly for illiquid, rare items, right, is a service, right? For the seller, they are trying to find the best possible market value for that asset. And the people bidding are providing a service in real time, helping to discover that value. That's what auctions really are. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, well, they should be rewarded for that. Because it is a service, and we should be rewarding them in real time and in such a way that aligns the incentives of the seller and the buyer as much as possible. It can never be fully aligned because it's a market, but as much as possible. Sure. And that's when the concept of bid to earn was born and what it is. But at a high level, when you get outbid, if you place a bid, you make a return. And that amount of return is capped. And there's a minimum step increase for every new bid that comes in, depending on what that cap of that return is. The most widely used preset. So we've done 200 million in bidding volume, over 70,000 auctions, almost $7 million earned by bidders to date. And across all of that, the most used preset is 10% maximum return, 10% increment for every new bid. That's basically the most used one at the moment. But you can go crazy. There's a degen preset for 25, which gets pretty nuts, but that's up to the seller.
You can get people to just start playing with this.
Yeah, so
and they're going to love it. Everybody that takes the time to understand what it's doing is going to love this.
Yeah, well,
this is literally like anybody who loves buying and selling domain names. This is literally going to be like crack, but it just takes you to take the time to understand what this is. Don't start speaking the first words that come into your mind. That's what animals do, right? Think critically about what this is, how it arrives at the best possible price for that asset, and what that means, larger implications for domain names as a whole, right? I've been transparent from the get-go, and for over a decade, for 15 years, I've been saying we need several things in order to advance this industry. Okay, in order to grow the pie, we need price discovery, we need more liquidity, and we need lending. Okay, that's it. And this helps us get another step further. Everything I've done in this industry, from DomainSherpa to the various auction things I've done, to the various investments and partnerships I've made that I've brought into the domain space, everything is about growing this pie. And I would really encourage people I think that people are going to love this. I think it's really I think if we can create a dynamic domain name marketplace where people are buying and selling domain names the way that were able to buy and sell, monkey JPEGs, but actually these are real assets, and not only that, but they're real commercial assets. I mean, look, it's on like Donkey Kong. Now you can use your expertise, regardless of where you are, to participate in price discovery. And the more price discovery you create, the more value you create, the more you're rewarded for that value that you create. And price discovery is something so fundamental to the healthy functioning of a market. it's not something people think about, but it's like it immediately struck me for whatever reason, probably because I was in the commodity business, how important price discovery was in this domain space. And so I think GBM is the solution to that. I'm very excited to just see how it all rolls out. I hope we can get, I'm very happy to throw 8 names out there and let people have a field day bidding on these things. They'll probably go for a hell of a lot cheaper than they should go for, but it doesn't matter. I don't care if they go for $100 or $1,000 or $10,000. It doesn't matter. I just want people to participate and practice and understand how this works, because the moment you either buy a domain through this method, or even better, you participate but you don't win it, and wait a minute, my account now has more money than it started with when I started bidding, and it's like, let me bid again, and then somebody outbids you and you get more money, and you're like, wow, this is. It literally is it's hard to understand until you see that. When you see it and you understand what it is you're being paid for price discovery.
Exactly.
You're being paid to know what something is worth in order to drive the true and highest purpose bidder that's participating to the highest possible value they're willing to pay for that item, which ultimately is its value in the market at that moment in time.
Nailed it on the head, Andrew. Couldn't have said it better. That's exactly the name of the game and what it does.
Like worst case scenario, if you said, you need to sell this domain right now for 15, 20 grand, like I think that I could do it, so
easily outbound. This is a name, like somebody approaches us, I'd say, yes, I'm very happy to outbound that domain because it's a very commercial domain. It's still a good brand. And like, honestly, little trick, okay? I don't think I've ever said this before. If you Google a term and the first 10 results, all of them are commercial, directly applicable to the term, you have you got money. That is a cash money domain name because it means it is an extremely high commercial intent keyword, phrase, or whatever it is. And if you do the same thing, if you do a Google search and the term shows up and the first, 3 options are, Webster's Dictionary, Wikipedia, whatever, non-commercial things or ambiguous or like really, tertiarily related things, you're going to have a hard time selling that domain. You got to get lucky to sell the domain. There's no clear market established digitally for that name. Okay. If there was, there'd be people advertising for it. You'd have organic listings for commercial enterprises that value that keyword or phrase. But what I see here, horses for sale, you got 10 solid commercial listings. Every single one is literally a marketplace selling horses. Every single one, or a service that is associated with such. So I think that's actually a very good domain. I think you paid about the right price, and I think you'll get a 10, 15x on it.
I like dairybarn.com, but I wouldn't pay that much for it. It's not quite right. Right?
I think a strip club.
Like, is that the right term?
Dairy barn?
Right? Isn't it dairy farm? But
yeah,
like
dairy farm is more than dairy barn. Sure.
Nobody has ever said the words dairy barn in their life ever. Nobody ever said that.
It kind of like feel like it should be right, but because it sounds so much like dairy farm.
It could be a strip club with large breasted women.
It's like the only contest in which it makes sense.
Dairy Barn was a chain or regional convenience stores located in.
It's like I was thinking Dairy Queen, and so that's
another one. Yeah, Dairy Queen also could have been a strip club. Get yourself a blizzard, dog. You feel me? We've got something pretty exciting that we will have been tweeting about a little bit. We've got the scavenger hunt that DNWE is going to be running, kicking it off here. So Ryan, real quick, you want to give a quick spiel on that so people know what's good with what we're doing there?
Yeah. So as part of the community initiative, we're basically having a scavenger hunt. So falls into 3 sections: education, community, and value. And so you're going to get 10 challenges. You follow the challenge, complete the challenge, and there's a bunch of prizes, everything from Name Pros gold membership, .db, Name Bio, and then it goes into events. So the ICA are giving a ticket to Vegas ICA. Meniere's giving a ticket to a VIP ticket to Domain Days Dubai.
Boom. But you guys have gone out and really, I mean, I'd like to take some of the credit, but you guys have really been doing the work on this as a way to kind of kick off your sponsorship of Domain Sherpa. And, you know, like you said, part of the community initiative, you guys are literally gone and, you know, gathering up thousands of dollars in prizes, all domain related stuff, tying it to the scavenger hunt that we're going to kick off. So real quick, let me tell people, go to community.dnwe.com. So we'll also have that in the show notes, but it's community.dnwe.com. And it's going to basically break down just, you know, sort of the process by which people can participate in these little challenges and get a whole bunch of different, and it's all domain related challenges to domain name related prizes. And here on Domain Sherpa, all roads lead to domains. And big shout out to you, Ryan, and DNWE for doing this in the first place.
Look, new top level domains. Another round will be coming here in a couple years. That's going to put a jolt of interest in domain names, you know, regardless of what you think about, you know, other extensions, that sort of thing. It drives a lot of attention to domain names. So I think that
forces people who make decisions to think about domain names.
Right. And that has
some of them
impact.
are going to make a decision for, you know, A, and some are going to make a decision for B, but it's forcing them to make a decision. And so I think it's only a positive, you know, and that's what we saw in the last round is everybody thought, oh, it's going to dilute the market. No, it actually just woke up a whole bunch of people who had never given it any consideration and forced them to make decisions. Even if it was a maintain the status quo decision, it forced them to think about it.
The other thing I'd say is I think people have finally gotten over this whole idea that you can build your entire presence on social media. And, you know, you have to have a domain name. You have to have your own website because, you know, look, this kind of started with Facebook, right? Like you saw all those ads many years ago, like us on Facebook. And then what did Facebook do? They charged people to access their fans, right? And you see this everywhere. You know, TikTok, I don't think it's actually going to go away in the United States, but if you built your entire presence on there and now you're like, oh man, this is an existential risk to my entire livelihood if it's on there. You see it with Twitter changing ownership and changing how it operates. You know, you can't rely on one particular network for your online presence. And so having your own domain name as your hub, I think people have realized that. We have enough use cases now to say, yeah, you can't just rely on these social networks because their interests are not aligned with yours.
Adam, are you ready to run the numbers? So we've got 1 through 74. We got 74 potential winners, and that have all completed the various stuff. Because the reason it went from 2,000 to 74, as you realize, you know, you had to watch the videos, you had to get the letters, you had to run through the stuff to figure out what the domain was. You know, this involved effort. It involved effort to set it up. And it involved effort on the part of the participants. So shout out to all you guys who participated. You're all winners at the end of the day. But there's only one real winner, you know, that's actually going to get something. So Adam is going to go ahead. Can you share? I think I made it so you can share screen.
Yep. Here we go.
So he's going to do a random number generator right here, 1 to 74. We're going to spin it, and the winner is the winner. So, and I've got a spreadsheet here where everything is already dictated, who's who and what's what. So if you go ahead and spin it, whatever number this lands on is going to be the winner of the headline Deal or No Deal domain contest.
You ready? Here we go.
Let's go.
That's funny. When Amar's playing pickleball, he doesn't say we're all winners.
No, he's like, he's the only winner. He's actually the biggest winner today because it's his anniversary. All right. Whoa, number 32. Let's go. Number 32. All right. So the winner is, should I announce them by because they just have their Twitter handle. So should I put, do the contestants know what their number is, Ryan? Or
no? So we have their Twitter handles. Some people didn't have Twitter handles, and we have their email address. So
all right, well, this is the Twitter handle. And
drum roll.
Billy, give us a drum roll, Billy. All right. And the winner is at
a little more insight into why I'm saying what I'm saying. Okay, number 1, easy. Literally, it has a difficulty score of 3, meaning that if I wanted to develop henatattoo.com, I would rank super easy because there's almost no competition. There are products and services sold commercially around henna tattoo. As Shane said, there's advertisements in his Yahoo feed, right? There are 75,000 global searches for henna tattoo. Number one in the world is the United States with 32,000 exact match searches per month. Number two is Germany, another high value e-commerce geography. Number two with 11,000. India is number four, right? And so it has a low CPC, but it actually has a relatively high value product service. You know, that the products are not cheap. Getting it done isn't expensive, but it's, you know, it has value. So anyways, I think, you know, Amazon has an entire section called amazon.com/henna tattoo, and then all the products related to that. That's a nice little hack, by the way, for people is if you're looking at e-commerce domains, you want, not only do you want to see that Amazon has a category for it, but that Amazon actually uses that version, meaning they use henna tattoo, not henna tattoos, right? If you go into Google, it's henna tattoo is the suggested keyword before you finish typing, not henna tattoos. And you always want to have the version that Google and Amazon push. So anyways, again, even if we're only looking at the United States, 32,000 exact match searches, paying $2,500 for the domain, you know, that's deep value.
DFV,
baby.
DFV.
A few weeks ago, I switched maybe half my domains to the new Afternic custom lander, and I'd heard some problems about them not resolving or whatever when they first launched. So I'd left it a couple of weeks for those bugs to get ironed out, and then I thought, well, I should check that they resolve. And the only way of doing that is literally to go and visit them all. But sitting there one by one, going through them didn't really seem feasible. And I thought I may as well do the whole portfolio while I was there. So I have this software called Scrapebox. And there's an add-on for that where it will just visit a page and take a screenshot, save it to a folder. So I just left it running to do that. And then I came to look at it. You can just scroll through the thumbnails, and any that aren't, you know, a Dan lander at a glance or an Afternic lander at a glance, they just stand out to you. So there was a couple that didn't resolve because I'd not changed the DNS. So that was useful. But then I had like 7 or 8 avast warnings where the page hadn't even loaded in the first place. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. So then I put those names into virustotal.com, and they all came up as blacklisted. It's just online virus check. So you can upload a file and it will against all the known malware and viruses, or you can add a domain and it will run it against all the blacklists. So it could be email blacklist, or it could be a virus or phishing, anything like that. So I only had 8 to run, so I could do them manually and see which lists they were on. But they do have an API that is free, and as long as you rate limit, you can send as many as you want there.
Wow.
But I need to brush up. I know a little bit about APIs, but not too much. So I think for next time I do it, I would learn that. But I also like the screenshot aspect because it just shows you what people are seeing when they go to visit it. So it's just instantly clear.
There are no two domains which are alike. All domains are individual. Everyone is unique. And even more importantly than the domain names themselves, the scenario in which a domain transaction happens is never. There has never been 2 circumstances in the universe under which a domain name was acquired where all variables that went into that decision were similar to another transaction. Okay. And then further and more importantly than all of that is simply who is the buyer and who is the seller. And that ultimately, combined with timing, is the most important variables in a transaction, and price comes secondary or tertiary to that. So for all of those reasons, it makes no sense to use a comp. And so all a comp is in a let's say, opaque industry like domain names where people don't understand value and it's very difficult to even figure out how to get over the target. If you are a buyer with no, let's say expertise or knowledge around the subject, or if you're a seller, okay? And so that's where a broker comes in. And so if a broker is actually doing their job, if a broker is a true market expert, if a broker can communicate and explain what drives the value of this particular domain name for your particular organization, that is how you achieve a better sale. That is how you optimize your outcome, is understanding what drives the value of this particular domain. What are the variables around the growth, the trend, the industry, the scarcity of this particular name, the fact that this particular name cannot be replaced or can be by any other name out there, and then understanding how it very, very specifically applies to you as a buyer and how you as a buyer will generate an ROI over some reasonable period of time for your business by acquiring this domain. Most likely in the decreasing of your cost of customer acquisition. I don't know. I just got it. I have no idea.
We are.
This is probably a pipe dream. The chances I'm going to actually do anything are very low.
Is that a Bernedoodle or Golden Doodle? What's that?
Yeah,
special guest. James gonna bring his dog now.
No, I'm
sorry, it just came up.
Are we doing dog? Is dogs in the show? Oh my dogs!
That's it.
Dog day? It's the dog day.
Dog day. That's it. Well, we love our dogs. Our dogs were with us already. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, let me go get my dog from the cage I put him in the backyard.
Mine not getting up. He's not moving a bit.
That's funny.
Easy. Look at that thing. Hold on. That looks like the same thing Adam has.
All right.
Yeah, the bigger version.
The girl, what's up? She's like, oh, I'm in this piece too. What's up? I'm here. I'm just here for the treats. Here for the treats.
That's the thing about, you got to know what you're doing, right? Like you have the advantage of having these big .com sales, right? So you already have some insight into certain industries because of these sales, but there's a lot of these sleepers that people miss the turn of extensions, or they miss industry terms. I once sold many years ago, like 12 years ago, I sold ERPsuite.com. Like, most people wouldn't know what that was, but I know what ERP is, and it's a suite, a software suite. And I sold for like $68,500, and after picking it up for like $800.
Yeah.
Today
those are, when people talk about arbitrage, that is the arbitrage opportunity, not in traffic, but the arbitrage opportunity in domain values it's knowledge arbitrage.
Knowledge. Yeah. And that's why when people say, well, where should I start? I say, start within your industry, pick up those terms within your industry that other people don't know, because that's your advantage.
I will say this also about Braden's sale real quick, because I feel like we should have mentioned it. One of the reasons why, without a doubt, why it sold quickly after he acquired it is because it came from Snap Names. It was likely at NetSol for 20 years under privacy, hard to get in touch with the owner, and there's some pent up demand, right? So he gets the name, he puts it up for sale. Suddenly there's a landing page there saying 150K. Boom, someone sees it who's been looking for that domain for a while. They buy it.
That's a great point, Josh. Fuck, man, look at you.
I'm glad I made that point before on this show.
Almost all that was right, except the landing page.
Original.
Okay.
Just took another Drew original. Sorry, man.
I'm joking, man. But it's an excellent point. It's an excellent point that I made before.
Best point on the show, made by Josh. On a great sale made by Braden.
Hey, that should go on X when you're like advertising for the show. It could be me giving a rant about how much I know about domains as opposed to Drew. How about that?
I'm in. Let's go.
Let's go.
I see that when we're trying to acquire .ai, right? So there's a price range that it makes sense. And what happens, like we reach out and investors and they confuse that signal. And to your point, Drew, like they're looking for this super crazy price, and then the buyers walk. So, I mean, we see it on both spectrums, right? You're seeing it from your side, selling them. You're seeing it, when we talk to buyers that are looking for domains, because we've had several, but there is a zone that it makes sense for them, right? So I mean, I talk about the five buyer types. I talk about my 3 pillars, right? Drew, you got the Rosen equation, all these different frames. But I mean, several times this year it's happened where like, hey, here's my strike zone. So you have to price it right. It has to be priced right, or you pass on your perfect offer. And then you're sitting with this domain name, right? I mean, I like to say it's like, if your perfect offer slapped you across the face, could you recognize it? And what I see is that this confusion that's out there.
It's a great way to say it, because the truth of the matter is that it often does slap you in the jaw, right? It often does. The people coming to us, hey, I got this offer, but then I was reading an article about how voice.com sold for 30 million. And so, I'm wondering if you guys can get me 30 million. And you're like, look, yeah, you're 100% right. And people don't recognize that offer they got, that was their chance. That was their moment. That was,
listen, you will
got the perfect pitch.
Yeah.
They got the perfect pitch and they stood there and watched it go across the plate.
Yeah. You will get, at some point, I'm feel confident you'll get the highest offer on your domain, right? And whether you recognize that or not is the key.
Before people tap out before the end, gtdn.com. I'm just setting the table. We're going to talk more about it by the later.
I only launch on 4letter.coms, man. I'm living the chip phase.
Mm-hmm. That's it. We're back with the chip phase. You're going to be dropping. You're going to be launching your next on a 6N. You know what I'm saying?
6N, bro. It's going to be 88888.
Yeah. 8888818.com.
Yeah.
Let's go. Anyway, get that domain.com. Looks pretty awesome, dude. I'm excited to hear more about it. We'll talk more before the end of the show, but again, I just to keep wanting to kind of set the table as we go so that people are paying attention.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.
Is it different than DNWE was?
Yeah, completely different. It's
you got the internet, right, Charles? You still connected online?
Yeah.
Basically just allows you to filter and search through basically all of the inventory that's on the market, so millions of domain names, and you can sort by newest domains to hit the market, domains with the highest TLD count. You can sort by extension. There's some other filters in there. It's basically a more user friendly way to browse domains as opposed to like going to expireddomains.net, which no end user is ever going to do. So I'm not really building it for the domainer community, although initially that's probably everyone that's going to use it. But in the next month or so, the plan is to market it pretty hard, go to Product Hunt and start getting in front of like the indie hackers, the founders, those kind of guys, basically help them browse through all of our inventory easier, more efficiently. For the sake of this exercise, and I think it's good because this will help people search the way that I search. And so let's go. We want .org, so do the search with me. You want a .org,
yep,
and you want a max price of, let's say, 20,000. Okay,
sure.
And I'm going to use TLD count, right? Because I know that the best .orgs are registered in a lot of extensions. So
yeah.
I'm gonna put 150, okay? Because I really only want good .orgs. So I'm gonna put a minimum TLD count of 150. I don't want any make offer, don't want any hyphens, don't want any numbers, don't want any special characters. I'm not too concerned on age or anything like that. Word count and length. Again, I really don't care.
Are you telling me this thing is still telling me there's 98,000 results? Is that possible?
So
98,000 .orgs that are 1 to 7 characters, under 20 grand.
Yeah, but hold on.
And to have 150 TLDs registered? That's crazy.
No, minimum. Make sure 150 TLDs is the minimum, not the max.
Oh, you're right. I had it in the max.
Minimum. So minimum TLD 150.
Yep.
You're gonna get 600. You're gonna get 670 results. Now it starts by recent, so like new to old. But I want to change that sort. I want to change it to TLD count high to low. So I want like to see the best .orgs essentially, because that's how I would do it. But so initially there's going to be
okay.
But if you go, you're going to see. Here's one. I scroll down a little bit. Mode.org 15K. Mode.org for 15K. That's a really, really freaking good domain. We're looking at the top 50 results here. We got Sweet.org. We got Transport.org. We got Iconic.org.
Oh, influencer.org for $9,500.
Yeah. So
I
agree
with
you.
Ticket. Look at ticket.org, 20 grand.
Exactly. Speaking of when people are evaluating colleges, where could they go if they have if they've got a kid that's going through the process?
Well, if they type in college.us, it's going to forward to collegeiq.com, which is the new site I launched just a couple of weeks ago. And so I went out because, I just went through this with my kid, like how do you, and college has changed so much since we went. It's gotten so much more expensive. It's so much more competitive to get into even schools that when we went to college weren't that competitive.
Sure.
And so, I was able to aggregate a lot of data from government sites and a private data source and all that sort of stuff and compile it in. So you can go in, you can search by all sorts of things, right? Like if you want to be within 50 miles of the coast, because you like hurricanes, you can choose that option and which coast. You can see things like political stuff, right? Like if you're like, oh, I don't want to be I want to be in a red state or a blue state, or I want to carry a gun on campus, which some people care about. Some people don't want to be around people carrying guns on campus. You can see all that data about the colleges.
Okay.
All in one place. So
wow.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, the idea is to help people find colleges they might not be aware of that be a fit.
The site looks really great, Andrew.
Yeah, the site looks awesome.
The next one I really like is Tendril. So
interesting.
Why?
So I was thinking about this beforehand, and I was kind of like, does the word tendril just kind of make you feel a little
creepy, a little creeped out or something?
Yeah.
It's funny because with a tendril, right? It's like a little arm, whatever, like an extension, like
it's like what the Kraken has.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I do a good bit of work I do a bit of outside work, right? And the tendril, they're the vines that just get intrusive and like they're just kind of come up and they're creeping on you. And but you like
people.
You're like, that's my vibe. That's my vibe.
So I'm right outside my door every morning. I come downstairs before I go get my first cup of coffee. I open up the sliding doors, let the air in. And right outside my door is a big old passion fruit, right? So I got big old passion fruit vines. And they got the craziest little tendrils, the little circular, little like corkscrews. And those things fascinate me. Literally, I just think it's amazing how they adapt and they move and they sense and they just start attaching to something and they just start weaving around it. I think it's wild. And I think that mystery, that action mechanism around tendrils is evocative in a way that makes it a really good brand. And all that being said, if you just do a Google search for tendril, you'll see there's like a lot of end users. So I think it's a really good name. I like it. I like tendril. But it's probably not one that's going to run out of your portfolio right after you buy it. You probably
it might creep out of your portfolio.
Yeah, he's going to creep. He's going to creep. It's a creeper.
Having a sense of what the worth of a domain based on, talk about value. How do you determine value of a domain, right? There's certain subjective there's objective factors, search, and, and how many companies are using the name. And then when you're digging further, call it more of the subjective stuff, which was what is the makeup of the companies, where are they at in their, funding and, and all of that kind of stuff. And, understanding that there are buyers out there for, obviously a oneword.com like this is a great name. It doesn't need to be, when you think about what a liner actually is, it doesn't mean only selling liners, which, I guess for a pool or for,
that's the thing is this, did have multiple buyers. I definitely, when I bought the name, I didn't think they would be, their use case was the most likely buyer. I thought it would be a shipping company. It would be, something bigger like that, right? But you just don't know who the end user is going to be. In this case, they are the best buyer, right? They're growing, they're AI, they were on a domain name, and this is kind of like their perfect upgrade.
Yeah.
Right.
And now they've boxed out anyone else that would potentially use that brand.
And like he was telling me, oh, we're looking at getting liner.ai. And I'm like, okay, cool. You should go ahead and spend a lot of money for that. And then you'll pay me more later. Like,
Yo, tell him.
Right. You just, I mean, but to some people, to most people, right? And to me, even like 100,000's a lot of money. So I just was thinking to myself, I'm like, well, it is a lot of money, but I think this name's worth more. And I think there are more buyers. And, so it was worth the risk of losing the sale.
Sure.
Right. So you just have to decide. It's always a decision of, is it worth losing the sale?
Yeah.
And as long as you're okay with that, then you're okay with that.
Because I'm liking school.co.uk, but I'm also thinking about it almost like in an old school way of like when it was just .co.uk and there is no .uk. And now like it's just the combination of those two is kind of weird. And obviously there's some .uk versions of the .co.uk version that weren't claimed, which I guess is potentially good if you just got the .co.uk version. But this is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
A couple things, JT, real quick. So, a foreign entity is open to using .co.uk or .uk. So I don't know what necessarily happened after Brexit, but
there was something with the Nexus restrictions. I remember that.
I'm not sure. I'm not a super expert on it. I just know that foreign entities are able to own .co.uk and .uk names. And the other thing is, on my understanding on, and I'm not a super expert in CCTLDs. Like I said, it's my first .co.uk, is that almost no business like remotely even cares about the .uk at the moment, which is why I went for the .co.uk initially. I think that really I 100% agree with Yanni is like, it's fragmented, right? But so like, even if businesses want the .co.uk, just the fact that the .uk is an option is like, from an investment standpoint, it's just kind of a nightmare. Like regardless of whether it gets adoption or it doesn't get adoption, it's like, it's still a nightmare.
You're permanently capped by whatever the seller.
Right, exactly. It's like all of a sudden, so like I buy it for $5,000, right? I price it for $100,000 or whatever it may be. Like, it's annoying that the UK exists and is then priced. Like, you want to have control of both. You want to have control of pricing both, regardless of what the adoption is. So, on that point, I just 100% agree. You got both, which means it's more expensive. It means it's less investable.
Just playing better odds if you go for names that other people have gone for before, because it's a predictive, it's almost like a proxy for predicting other people wanting that name later. So in other words, it lets you kind of like almost like predict the future in terms of what's the chance of somebody else coming up to you to buy it.
Sure. Well, it's like when Josh and I, we were having a conversation about some names a day ago, and it was, how many TLDs is it registered in? We're comparing two names, right? So when we were running through the exercise, how many names, how many other TLDs. And I think a name like Roslyn is interesting. It's a village in Scotland. There's a bunch of end users, it looks like. There's a bunch of companies. It's effective.
It's a surname. Yeah, there's lots of stuff.
That's what I said.
And I mean, at the end of the day, like, what I would say is that if it has, let's say, a lot of extensions taken, it's not necessarily a good indicator. But if it doesn't have any extensions taken, that's definitely a bad indicator. Really, this is the internet's crowdsourcing way of telling you this name sucks to such an extent that nobody else wants it. And you may want it, but like that, you already are entering a whole other territory there. Like, I mean, maybe if you're the end user, okay, fine. But if your whole point is to, put up your own capital, that this capital has a cost of capital, at least in the form of opportunity cost, like you got to make good decisions.
Hey, that's, I couldn't have said it better.
Here in the forest, dark and deep, I offer you eternal sleep.
All right, Shane, our trusted weather guy. What do you think? I mean, what is the forecast for these domains?
I think there's some headwinds on a couple of them, but other than that, I think there's some value. Like, I sold yourlogohere.com because I felt like it worked well in advertising. I think your ad here on billboards is amazing name, right? When you're trying to sell you see it all the time, right? An empty billboard, and they've got some kind of wording to try and get you to buy space. I can't think of anything more memorable than that being on a billboard or even on a website. I just think it's a great name, and I don't think it'll go for that much. And I think there's some possibilities there. Seniors.org is obviously generic, but it's pretty open vessel, and it's a huge category. Like literally the whole world has gotten old since my dad's generation is large. So I think that I don't know the resale value, but I think the opportunity there is obviously huge. And org works really well, right? Like that's org in that term. So solid name. That's one of my favorite names on there. Deadheads is a fun one. I don't think that's trademarked for the Grateful Dead, but obviously that's what they're called. That's that you would think that category or that group would be dying because they've gotten so old, but man, Fish and Widespread Panic and Deadheads, they just keep rolling. The next generation have found all of them. So I think that one could be a really fun. I don't think the name is the value. The build out's probably more there than the actual name. And then I'll end with like local growers. I think people are still, even after COVID, are still thinking about locally grown food, locally grown plants, locally grown things. So I think local growers is a solid name for anything that has to do with plant wise or food. It's a solid list. I mean, even the other ones aren't bad.
Well, let's keep it moving. Because we're in the middle of the domain game. We made it through one name. We're covering all sorts of ground. I do love it though. It's all good. But Drew, do you have a name that you bought or sold recently to throw into the mix? Currently, Amar is leading with 1 point. and 4 words said all show. Got 1 point and and 2 contributions.
All right. We're gonna go with a purchase. Buzzard.com.
Oh, I didn't know.
I was hoping you'd reveal this.
All right, I get to be in on this one. I didn't even know we bought this one. Buzzard.com.
You don't pay attention, JT. Get on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm out of the loop on this one.
I haven't checked emails all week.
I haven't had it.
He was too busy riding Thunder Mountain.
Thunder Mountain, baby. That's how we do it. Disney for Halloween.
Whatever
Mickey's not so scary.
He got confused. He thought it was Brokeback Mountain. He kept coming back for more.
My computer's turning and my microphone's turning purple.
Bro. Come on, man. Saying like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Here we go. Buzzard.com. Ready? Flip it. What's your
Why is
thought?
buzzard a negative word for you?
Buzzard is like not an animal that's like, it's not a pet. It's not a positive kind of animal. It's like a buzzard. It's like, that's like in the desert.
It's a bird of prey, man. It's a bird of prey.
Yeah, but it's like a
buzzard is
bird, man. That shit's like, you know what I'm saying? They hang around dead carcasses. They feed on dead carcasses, man.
I think it's from the cartoons we growing up.
I was gonna say everybody's picturing that same bird, same kind of with the sulky shoulders and the
No, but that isn't that the that's the other one. That's the
Here's how I look at it. The number one.
What's the one that eats all the dead animals?
Buzzard. Oh,
no.
Bro?
Vultures.
Vulture.
You're thinking of a vulture, not a buzzard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. In my mind, though, look, but the buzzard with the red face is an ugly bird. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but
nobody's like,
the red face is a vulture. No.
Oh, maybe that's a turkey vulture. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, turkey vultures are mean.
Yeah, maybe that's part of, like, because I'm looking at images of buzzards and they actually look pretty cool. But I've never known.
Look, a buzzard is a species of hawk.
Yeah, but I've never known anybody to be hype on buzzards, like on some like, yo, I got a pet buzzard. Shit is dope. Like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got a hawk. I'm like, yeah, like, oh, I got a falcon. Let's vibe out. But like, yo, I got a buzzard. Everyone's like, yo, leave him at home. You know what I'm saying?
They gave me like, you know, the pimped out version of the Remarkable pad that gave me like all this gear there's all from Remarkable. It was like the pimped out whatever, like custom thing, had my initials on it, the whole thing. And I took that shit. I was like, oh wow, what a dope gift. And then I got home and I'm like, I was literally about to plug it into my computer. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this somebody else. Because you know, you just I don't think I want to plug that into my network.
That's
it,
probably
man.
true, especially if it's blockchain related.
Well, you know, I mean, it is. And when you think about it, it's like that idea of like Facebook, right? If it doesn't cost something to use, you know, then you are the product or your
That's
information or your activity.
Ain't no
or
such
whatever.
thing. Yeah, nothing free in this life.
Yeah, ain't no free lunch.
Except the advice we give you here on Domain Sherpa.
That's true. That is true. All roads lead to domains. We got some exciting news. Josh, we want to tell them what's good. Let's talk about DNX. What's up?
Yeah. Let's talk about it. So we're rebranding GTDN to DNX. Thank God.
Billy, wait. Hit him with some fireworks. Billy, hit him with an explosion.
I mean, so like the way that I kind of thought about it is I launched it in October, you know, put it on that domain, just wanted to like test the market, see what was going on, see what the feedback was. Feedback was good. Had some good conversations with people in the industry, specifically had some good conversations with the good people of Media Options, JT and Drew, and, you know, decided that we were going to try to take it to the next level and spend a little bit more time on it. DNX.com was available thanks to the Media Options guys, and we got a little we conjured up a little partnership. So
we had you on the show. We talked about, you know, get that domain. We thought that the tool was very, very cool. I think what you're doing is really, really awesome. You know, the idea of creating tooling around the domain space in areas where certain marketplaces do not have effective searches and, you know, utility around how to really surface and source good domain buying opportunities, you know, for folks. And you know, and there's obviously a ton of domain inventory out there. Shout out to Afternic, shout out to Cito, shout out to, you know, a bunch of the partners that we have that will be pulling the inventory onto DNX. And, you know, I know Drew and I were super, super impressed with what you had built with over a pretty short period of time.
This isn't a political thing. This is an America thing. This is a make money type of thing. That's what we're about here on
capitalism in full effect. That's really
we are. If there's anything that we are about on this show, it is straight up raw capitalism. That's what we are about.
Raw and uncut capitalism. That's what we got.
Raw and uncut capitalism. And I'm telling you right now, I couldn't be more here for it than America is about to get a real taste, I hope, of raw, uncut capitalism. There's always a narrative. They're all fugazi. All of them. All. If you just, there may be an exception to that rule, but if you just go through your life assuming that all those narratives are going to be fugazi, that applies not just here. That's like, okay, every alternative domain extension, right? Assume it's fugazi and then work backwards from there, right? Doesn't mean they're all fugazi, but if you just assume, okay, this fugazi, work backwards from there, new crypto coin, it's fugazi, let's work backwards from there. Like, you're going to do better. You're going to do better. You're going to make less, you know, let's say fatal mistakes. But
risk is also
sometimes the only way to learn is, you know, get hit in the face with a bat.
You know, that's what I think is the coolest thing about watching your journey happen in real time. Is like you're really doing it the way that it had kind of, you know, it's a success story for real.
Well, thank you. I mean, I feel like you have to show up every day, right? You can't just do this as, I mean, to grow, to learn how to be a profitable domainer, you have to invest in yourself. It's a very expensive asset class. The learning curve is very steep and very expensive. There are a lot of flashing.
We're trying to make it a little cheaper and a little shorter over here.
Right. Like if I could do it all over again, I would have just said, look, Andrew, here's 3 Bitcoin. Tell me what to buy. But, you know, the ego kicks in. You think you got it figured out. And, you know, it's like, you're like, oh, you come up with all these forced narratives. The key thing that I've learned is just stick to the fundamentals. Surround yourself with people that you can learn from, like you guys. Because you guys make those mistakes, right? And you're not going to avoid mistakes, but you can minimize them. And so I made a lot of costly mistakes because I operated as a lone wolf. And once I realized, oh man, there are people who have already crossed this path before me. Like Shane would tell you, I'm always asking dumb questions, because those mistakes are very expensive. I remember buying a name like CEO.live, and the renewal was what was it, $3,000? And I remember telling myself, oh yeah, I'll sell it before the renewal. When that renewal came, I was like, what the hell is this? Drop that. You know what I mean? So it gets expensive. And, but at the same time, you're seeing people announcing sales, and, people's come up with all type of theories. And so I think it's really important for people to go to the conferences, network with people, have a community of people that you can run ideas by, and to minimize your mistakes, because you will make them.
I think it may just be a time period thing. So maybe 20 years from now, you have to have some on-chain name for sending and receiving payments as the market grows. Mm-hmm. But today, that's not the case. And we're integrating in traditional DNS into Assemble domains, where I think we're now supporting 50 plus traditional ICANN TLDs. We'll be over a couple hundred soon. We're just a full-fledged ICANN registrar. And the biggest difference is, by default, everything on our registrar is on-chain, right? So if you transfer domain names into Assemble domain, we handle all the tech on the back end. So you don't even need to know that blockchain and Web3 is happening. And every time we talk to customers, especially domainers, they don't want to know anything about blockchain and Web3. And honestly, they don't need to, but they do want to have faster transfers, lower fees, lower commissions. And so we're focusing on those value benefits. And crypto in 2021, you had to be there to understand how crazy it was. People were just saying decentralized super DAO with a token, and then pushing prices to 50 billion. And it was just a mania. And now people are saying value prop is XYZ, come check us out. And how can we kind of, push things forward? So I'm feeling very positive about bringing domain names on chain. And as we are learning, and there's a steep learning curve coming into ICANN and learning all the intricacies of all the different TLDs and all the country codes and how all this works. I mean, there's some things that happen when you're a domainer. It's like you transfer a domain name from one place to one registrar to another, and it takes weeks. And you're like, why is this happening? You have domains up for sale, maybe on certain websites. You find out, oh wait, it wasn't really for sale, or the buyer backs out, or the seller backs out. All sorts of things like this, that if we can put them on chain and put some guarantees into the software code so that it's more programmatic, more automated, and it's on chain, but you don't even need to care about that, so that you can just get paid faster, list quicker, get your transfers in better. I think that's where we're going to see the advantages here.
Let's dig right into it. Over to my right, I got my boy Andrew Rosner, aka Morpheus, aka the Dirk Diggler of digital assets, aka Bob Lee Swagger, the sniper, aka Drew. Drew got what I need, aka every Rosner has its thorn. Graybeard, the domain pirate, aka Lobster Claw. What up, dog?
Sup?
Let's go. What's good with you, man? How you feeling?
Oh man, unfortunately, I'm very tired today. I'm just wiped out, but otherwise, I'm great. I'm just watching my moves swing with the price of Bitcoin. That's it.
Dude, what'd you call it on our call earlier today? Quantum entanglement. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. Quantum entanglement. My emotions are quantumly entangled with the price of Bitcoin.
Oh, that's why it's like as you get older, you get like arthritis, right? Like you're like, oh, I can tell it's gonna rain because my joints hurt. In this case, it's like you're like, ooh, I'm feeling a little off. Bitcoin must be down, and then it's like without even looking at the chart. Yeah, man, quantum entanglement, baby. That's what it is.
Doing okay, recovering from the Thanksgiving holiday.
That's it, man. So so for you, being the whole vegan vibe that you are. So it's is it vegan turkey, or do you guys just don't even pretend to do anything? Like I'm sure you have turkey for your meat eating guests, but what do you do?
No. Screw all those people. It's my house.
What?
My house.
Oh, it's my house.
Yeah, there's no turkey in my house either.
Right. So
no turkey. Oh,
no, my house, my rules.
All right.
So actually we brought in a vegan turkey. There's a restaurant that I frequent that the guy makes all his own mock meats from scratch with soy and I mean, he makes like duck and beef and chicken and shrimp and ham. And so for the holidays, he does these turkeys, and it's amazing. People eat this and they think it's real turkey. It's crazy.
Okay. You know, maybe I have to check it out. You know, little
texture.
meat flavored soy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's pretty good. So I get that, and it's a whole like it's on display like a turkey. Why vegans do that? I don't know. Like,
Well, that's what I was envisioning, right? Like with the whole
thing.
deal, like it looks like the bird and the whole nine. I love that.
He makes it look like a bird. You could stuff it, the whole thing.
So
I dig that. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I don't really dig it. I'm not down.
I like that, man.
I don't think we need to make it look.
It's like those cakes, like people that turn anything into cake, so they cut into like on the you see those. It's like
is
a
it
dog.
a cake or is it a toilet? I don't know. Let's cut it.
All right, Braden, what about you, man? What do you like and what don't you like?
Everything's been covered. Univisa.
Oh man,
there's no way to monetize it. There's like
how could you not include squirrels.org? Sorry, I was just back ordering one of these names on MemeJet as we speak. Sorry, Brandon. I know I'm interrupting you, but this is a public service announcement. Squirrels.org expired and is on MemeJet.
All right, hold
and
on.
I think that we owe it to ourselves to collectively buy squirrels.org in honor of Peanut.
Oh, Peanut, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
Big
Peanut. We got you, Peanut.
Can we have a moment of silence? A moment of silence.
Moment of silence for Peanut.
I'm looking for squirrels.org. I don't know that I didn't even show up on my list. Where are you seeing
this guy? He doesn't even have the fucking courtesy to do the moment of silence. He just keeps talking.
All right. Hey, wait. All right. Moment of silence for Peanut.
Bow your head. Shame.
We're going to talk domains. Let's get into the domain game, actually, and then let's run through some names that were really recently bought and sold by the Sherpas, and let's see if we can't get somebody some swag. What, Drew? What you got? You got a buy or a sell?
Oh, you had to go to me first, didn't you?
Didn't you? You're first in my.
Can you go somewhere else?
Surprise! We're doing the domain game again.
What? We're doing this. I've never done this before. Every time.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and Shane, you are Drew went first on the domain game. So why don't you pull the list and tell me what you think? And I had to pull this one kind of quick because I'm traveling.
Yeah.
So, but
at first I didn't like him, but then I started going through a little deeper. I do like I like Olco just because kind of what we talked about before doesn't really mean anything, but that OLCO, 4-letter, pronounceable, company at the end. I think those are exactly the kind of 4 letters I want to own. And I'm asking 6 figures for. At least I'm shooting for 6 figures.
Okay. One that you in the same sort of vein of like a Tukey or whatever you'd be looking to spend maybe somewhere in the 5-8 range. Flipping.
Yeah. And I think you have to now. You could have gotten those. I mean, we could talk about that all day. Coulda, woulda, but those are the kind of names that have really increased in value in the auctions are these short, pronounceable, open vessel names. So that's those are kind of want to have in my portfolio in big numbers.
Love the idea of the open vessel, man. You know what I'm saying?
Open vessel.
Plenty of opportunity.
We talk about on the shows and on the spaces about having the number of companies that have that name that want the name, and that's very valuable info as well. But the other side of the model is having a nice short name for something new. So that's the other side. If you get both those sides covered, you're going to win the domain game. So
you're going to win the domain.
You're going to win the
real domain game
of life.
I think it's just also super cool how in this space, in the domain space, and we talk about this idea of co-opetition and how we do have the fact that you can have some of the biggest domain brokers in the space. You guys are obviously all on the escrow list almost year in and year out, and here we are bullshitting, talking about doing deals together.
At ICA last year, a domainer came up to me and said, I thought you brokers would be at each other's necks at this show, and it's surprising that a lot of you are drinking and laughing together. And I was like, well, I mean, I've known these guys for years, and it's nice to talk business, and it's, nice to hear what they're up to and how things are going and talk about deals and things like that. I mean, I find that if Andrew calls me and says, hey, what's the price on this? I give him the price. We can have an honest conversation about where it's going to go, what's going to happen. And he goes and does it, or he comes back and says, forget it. It's not a thing. And then Steve said, move on to the next deal. And it's refreshing, working with a broker that you call and just say, hey, what's the price on that? And they're like, oh, you need to make a minimum offer. You make a minimum offer, and then it's like X comma XXX is what you need. And it's like, oh, I need to know who your buyer is. Fill out this form. And you just like, give me a fucking break. Like, let's do a deal. Like, if you want to do it, my buyer hired us for a reason. You know, your seller's working with you directly to do this, and let's come together and make something work so everyone can walk away happy, right? And that's the goal.
We're all gonna eat, you know?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, Jeff, you bring up a good point. When you were starting out, Saul, you were kind of calling me, picking my brain about. I started my own company, and you were going to start your own company. You gave me some. I gave you some ideas, and then when I was starting my company, I reached out to Mark Daniel. I had known for a long time, and kind of picked his brain. And there's a great group of people that we share ideas, we share thoughts, we tell funny stories. Hey, you're not going to believe what this client did, and we're like, oh yeah, this client. So it's such a cool experience when you have people that. We're not really competing, but we're in the same industry, sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, each trying to sharpen our skills and do a better job for our clients and make more money for ourselves.
Jeff, what do you like? What don't you like, man? What's up?
I think the clear winner that no one can really argue about is Samba on there, but I mean, that's obvious. I think ones that the stats don't really make it look great that I would like personally, that I think you could probably get it at reasonable prices, would be Go Natural would be one I'd like. If you're going to get it at a cheap price, you probably get it similar for what Steve paid for the music lawyer's name. And I think the other one, if you live in the Florida area, Sunset Village is something that's probably on, within every 5 square miles in Florida and every other vacation destination, whether it's a retirement community, another fucking huge real estate project or something's called Sunset Village. But again, the stats might not notice that, and you could get a good deal there. And then, the one that I think could be a false positive that you might end up kind of with a bag, like that's not great. I think, but it tells you kind of differently. I think Dinner Cruise isn't great. And the reason is it's such local small businesses that are Google's made it so when you search Dinner Cruise, it's really just showing you results in a very small area, and it's a very buy the traffic kind of thing. And I think trying to find buyers for that would be challenging. Contacting a lot of these small captains on lower margins, I think it would be tough to get that thing sold. Personally,
Yep. No, I think that's all really great feedback. I love referring to a name that, you might end up buying and hanging on to for a while as a false positive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I love that.
Like there's certain names, like someone will be like, look, going on your appraisal tool and it says it's worth $100,000. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. Yep. And these are the reasons why it's off, because these reasons, and those are all the wrong things making the system excited,
I bet you there's a solid buyer out there for investment solutions too. There's just so many investment companies called so many different things, and investment solutions is a pretty
long, but yeah.
Yeah, that name is like a Josh Reason special. Like, when we have Josh on the show, he talks a lot about, kind of picking those words that at the end, like solutions names, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve probably naturally rejects the name because of network solutions, you know what I'm saying? Because of his history there. And I feel you, dog.
It's like it's like a histamine. It's an allergy.
Notice JT starts hugging himself when he starts.
I know. I'm like, I feel you. I feel you.
No, it's like I gotta feel comfy again.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.